Views expressed in the videos are my observation, analysis of events, persons based on principles of astrology. It's not my intent to predict, forecast absolute outcomes, only suggest how they may unfold. Nothing is set in stone. I could be wrong, but often I'm right. My desire is not to promote fear, only inform about what we see unfolding. It is our wish to prepare our subscribers for events that could affect them, their family, their goals, and their future, to help to prepare for what you may already suspect is happening, and to send a warning shot across the bow and raise a flag of concern. Our goal is to help, not hinder, in these perilous times, to inspire and offer possible direction, and to reveal that a greater plan and purpose are behind all that is happening. Eventually, we will see a brighter day. If you would like to show your appreciation for our work on these videos or this channel, and also the Knowing Whispers channel, you can always click on the word thanks at the bottom of all the videos. Hello everybody, it's Robert Cosmar, and this is the Astrology of Life YouTube channel. Today I am going to do a video entitled Trump and the Astrology of Higher Consciousness. I had mentioned this over in the community section of the channel that I was beginning to feel like I had a sense of direction as to what I wanted to do with the horoscopes. In deference to the live streams that we're doing once a week on Saturday mornings from 10 to 11 Eastern Daylight Time. I gave a great thought about this in terms of what I wanted to do, how I wanted to take this. I had felt like that there was too much of a tendency to be too focused on Donald Trump, too focused on the negativity, too focused in a sense that it was imbalanced in a way that wasn't giving enough credibility to the fact that the universe is attempting to do something very incredible. Okay, and this is what I'm going to focus on in the future here. I want to focus on the astrology, but I want to take it into the realm of understanding higher conscious energies and what they are doing depending upon what the chart is in relationship with. It could be an individual, it could be a country, it could be just the world in general. Okay, what's happening at a particular time. In your horoscope, for those of you who either understand astrology, you might be astrologers, you know that the planets represent consciousness. In fact, I often refer to astrology as the science of consciousness, because that's exactly what it is. It's a tool for exploring the consciousness at any given moment. And that consciousness can be an event, it can be a business, it can be a country, it can be an individual. Okay? And all of this kind of reflects back again onto this concept of oneness, that there is in truth no division in life at all, that everything is connected in some way, shape, or form, and that what the universe is attempting to do for those of us that are consciously aware is to make us more conscious, to overcome the negative perspective that has kind of infiltrated over the last several years into our view of what is happening. Okay? It really does no good to kind of hammer in mentally and emotionally all of the things that are going on if we're going to judge them as being evil, dark, or bad. Okay? And as I mentioned before, I know how difficult this is to digest, particularly if you're in your emotional body a lot, and certain views that you might be absorbing from the internet or from TV are kind of agitating your emotional body to the point where that's the only thing you see is what you emotionally agree with. Okay. And it's also why over the last several months that I've encouraged those of you that watch my videos, you need to focus within yourself consciously. That is how you will survive and overcome the things that you have been led to believe fearfully. Okay? Um, but as you know, that's easier said than done for all kinds of reasons. All right? But what I want to do here, again, is to kind of set the stage of having you look at a horoscope in a different way. In the horoscope, when you take a look at Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury, and the Sun and the Moon, you're basically looking at the conscious ego of the person and how it is functioning. Okay, whether it's functioning well, if you have trines and sextiles and conjunctions, okay, or whether or not it is not functioning well at all, which often is the case when you have Uranus, Neptune, okay, Pluto, possibly other asteroids, possibly other trans-Neptunian bodies, things of this nature, okay? These planets represent higher consciousness, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And the sign that they're in, the house that they're in, the aspects from them, give the astrologer an idea of what the issues are that the person is having to face in a lifetime. In other words, what is the karmic indicators? Okay? What is your higher self attempting to do by its aspects to certain points in the chart, certain planets, certain angles, and things like this? This is how you get a sense of what it is inside of you that is wanting to evolve if you will allow it to happen. If not, then you can face all kinds of mental and emotional disturbances, and some of them can be quite severe. All right, if you haven't begun to make that interconnection with your higher self and begin to discover, okay, who you are and why things are happening to you. Okay, astrology is a tool for self-discovery, and it's to help you to get aligned with your higher self. Okay. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this is my focus now, is to talk to you through the videos that I'll be doing about what these outer planets are doing and why they're doing it. Okay, we know now that Pluto is at 3 degrees of the sign of Aquarius. Okay, in the natural zodiac, Aquarius is 11th house. Okay, it rules things like your hopes and wishes, your friendships, organizations that might support you in what it is you're trying to accomplish. Okay? So, all of these areas for the next 15, 20 years, let's say, with Pluto being in Aquarius, whatever house Aquarius is in your chart is where you'll experience changes, okay? Revolutionary changes, okay? Because Uranus rules Aquarius, in that particular house, in that particular area of your life. Okay? And aspects from that planet will show you where you're going to have to deal with certain things. You're going to have to grow. Okay? And some of that growth can be quite painful because our egos do not want to let go, okay, of control. Okay? That is the one thing, that is the one painful reason why we suffer through changes if we're not prepared to evolve and grow. It's because of the fact that our ego, through fear, does not want us to grow. It wants us to remain in a very low state of consciousness so that we can be of service to its purpose, okay, to the purpose of those who programmed us from the time that we were born. Okay? Now, when you take a look at Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, you're taking a look at aspects of your higher self-consciousness. All right? One of the problems that you'll run into when it comes to those planets and the planets from Saturn on down is that it is not subject to logic and reasoning. You have to understand that in the realm of your higher self-consciousness, there is no logic to it. The rules that we accept and obey, the programming that we have allowed ourselves to absorb in this particular lifetime, based upon these words logic and reasoning, do not apply in higher states of consciousness. Okay? And the ideas that we have about morals and ethics and things like this, while they do have a basis in higher conscious understanding, they don't apply in that realm. Okay? Because there is no division in your higher self. There is no duality. Okay? This division is what is the root of our problem. It's the root of our racism. It's the root of our of our jealousy, hatred, anger, all of these things. Judgment, okay, is at the core of this. And it causes us to want to devour each other, okay, because we have assumed that these things were the truth. The truth is far more different than what you imagine. In fact, your imagination cannot imagine the truth. And this is why it's important that you grow consciously and that you experience the truth. Okay? So, Uranus as a planet symbolizes our own unique individuality. Okay? A uniqueness that goes above and beyond the Saturn programming that we have gotten from our institutions, from our family, our parents, and our friends. It often creates divisions between us and those individuals because we are motivated to follow a singular path that requires that we trust and understand, okay, what we feel within inside of ourselves. Neptune. Neptune by far is the most challenging and difficult energy to understand, but it goes along with what I said a little bit ago. No logic or reasoning. Neptune represents a higher aspect of infinite oneness that is not limited by the judgments of Saturn. Okay? And I know that for many, mentally and emotionally, that is really difficult to wrap your brain around. Okay? Because so much of what we have experienced in this world, we pass judgment on it. We have said that this is good, this is bad. Okay? And what we don't understand and realize is that we have brought pain and suffering upon ourselves. Because rather than to let go of that judgment and that pain, okay, we hold on to that. Our ego wants to hold on to that. Okay? And we restrict our ability to enter into a higher conscious relationship with our higher self. All right? So, along with Uranus, Neptune introduces us to an unlimited aspect of conscious knowledge, conscious truth, conscious beingness. Okay? A very powerful creative force when it comes from a very high level of consciousness. If it's still tied up with Saturn, it creates a tremendous amount of anxiety. In some cases, maybe depression, okay, confusion. Because Neptune in relationship, like it is here, with a conjunction to Saturn, it means that the old structures, the old beliefs that we have grown up with, that we believe to be part of the truth, are being assaulted by these unexpected effects that Neptune brings in. Okay, so if you're going through a Neptune-Saturn aspect, or you have Neptune-Saturn in your chart, there's often times when there's a great deal of confusion your ego feels extremely vulnerable because the things that you believed in, the things that you hold sacred, are falling apart. And because you're not yet consciously evolved, it creates a tremendous amount of anxiety because you feel like your identity is crumbling right in front of your eyes. And it does require patience and a willingness to go within yourself to be able to find the answer that you're looking for. Okay? Pluto. Pluto is an example of what is possible when you are in alignment with your higher purpose and your higher self. It gives us the power to be able to take those creations, that creative energy of Neptune, that individuality of Uranus, and forge something totally new and bring it to the forefront of others. Okay? When we refuse to align ourselves, as I said here a little bit ago, with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, we bring pain and suffering upon ourselves because essentially, along with our ego and our mind and our emotions and our imagination, we're refusing to evolve consciously into a different being than the one we have embraced for a good part of our life. This is the main issue of life because so many of us are programmed from a very young age to believe that wealth, power, success, and fame are what life's all about, only to find out by example, by those who have pursued that, and by maybe our own attempts, that that doesn't answer the question. In fact, in many cases, it makes it much worse. Okay, much harder to understand it. Okay, so Neptune here cradling against Saturn, and it's going to be in a dance, so to speak, because Neptune moves very slow. It may go retrograde, come back closer to Saturn. So this is one of the main themes of our lifetime now, is the old is dissolving, and we're not quite sure what to make of the new. And the only way to make sense of the new is that we have to be willing to become new ourselves. And if we're not willing to do that, then we feel the suffering alienation, okay, that Neptune brings. We cannot resist the influence of Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus. Regardless of who you are, regardless of what stage your karma is, at some time in your life, they're going to have an impact on you. They're going to pull you within. They're going to say, you need to go within. You need to take a look at these things, depending upon what house it is, what aspect's going on, okay, and things of that particular nature. You can essentially divide every chart into Saturn down to the Sun, okay, and these aspects and things are very easy to understand and see because they're a part of our belief system, our programming. But if you want to understand your higher self, what your higher self abilities, talents are, capabilities are, what is the areas of your life, the karma that you're going to have to deal with at certain points, then you look at Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Okay? And you focus on what they are trying to say to you, what they're trying to tell you. Okay? Now, over here in the Aspectarian, just to kind of give you another idea of my approach towards where I'm going here, and this is very much the approach that I take when I do readings for people, is that I'm not an entertainer and I'm not a fortune teller, okay? And my objective in any reading is to help you through the process of evolving as best I can by explaining to you what is going on in your chart, by showing you what Neptune, Uranus, and also Pluto are trying to tell you, and to help you to realize you have a choice, okay? You know the old saying, resistance is futile? Well, as far as life is concerned, resistance is futile. This situation that we're going through globally right now, you can whine, you can complain, you can curse, You can hate, you can fume, whatever you want to call it. All right. But what is happening is much bigger, and I've said this many times, than Donald Trump or Elon Musk. Okay? And there are plenty of examples in history how humanity did not move forward until some great and destructive calamity caused and forced change to happen. Okay? And the reason for that for most people is because there is such a strong emotional attachment. Our ego has such strong emotional attachments towards being here and trying to achieve the goals and ambitions that the ego would like to set up for us. And the sad reality behind all of that is that regardless of how hard you work at trying to achieve that, there all comes a day when we have to leave this world. There all comes a day of reckoning. Okay? And for most people, they spend their life avoiding and denying that. Okay? And we're at a point now in the evolution of humanity where there will be deaths. There are deaths going on. Okay? And this doesn't make you feel good by any stretch of the imagination. And it adds in some cases to the fearful possibilities. All right? But on a positive side, what the universe is trying to do is to show us that we need to go within and to reclaim this lost territory that we all have within us. We all have a higher self. We're just distracted by our mind, our emotions, our imagination, our lower conscious self. Okay? Now, one of the ways that you can look at your horoscope, and I try to encourage this as much as I can, for those of you who are astrologers or those of you who understand astrology, this is something probably you do. I mentioned, I think, in the last video or the last live stream about how significant it is to follow the transiting moon in your chart. Get yourself a free program. Get an ephemeris. You can get them online, download them and watch the position of the moon in relationship to the planets as it transits through your horoscope. Most of the time, unless the benefic planets of Venus, let's say Venus and Jupiter, unless they are afflicted heavily in your natal chart, when the moon sextiles, conjuncts, and trines those planets, you can almost guarantee that you're going to have a very favorable day, that the events in your life will appear favorable. You'll be calm. You won't be in a state of frenzy, of high anxiety. When the moon's transiting by conjunction, in some cases, square, okay, opposition, to planet Neptune and Uranus. These are the days, and I'll throw Saturn into that too. These throw the days in where you may feel anxious and depressed and frustrated because it seems that nothing is working for you. Nothing that is going the way that you want it to go. And of course, that's very painful if you can't accept the fact that there is a higher purpose and reason for why that's happening to you. Okay? Much of the pain that we bring upon ourselves is a failure to accept that something that is denying us what we want is actually attempting to help us to realize something that we need to know about ourselves. Conscious knowledge. Okay? Karma. Past life issues. Okay? These are all a part of being a human being, of growing and evolving consciously. Now, when you look over here at the aspects, here's Pluto. You can see that right today it's squaring Mercury. Neptune is squaring Jupiter. It's conjuncting Saturn, which I've already talked about. Uranus is conjuncting the Sun. Okay, on a global scale, this can be applied to countries, it can be applied to the world in general, or it can be applied to a business or an individual because of oneness, because they're all interconnected. And if you are meditative, if you are seeking inner conscious knowledge, most of you will understand that right away. For those that are still in your mind and you're still training yourself to understand astrology, that's going to seem to be very odd. Okay? And there's no way I can convince you of what I'm telling you. You'll have to experience that consciously for yourself. But you can tell, particularly with Pluto and Uranus and Neptune, the areas of life that are in turmoil, that are feeling like they're assaulted. Okay? Pluto in a hard aspect, okay, very much involves aspects of control. All right? We see in the world on a grand scale a move by the wealthy to want to control the thinking of the masses. Okay? Neptune squaring Jupiter. Okay? Neptune, of course, in its highest level of consciousness, relates to concepts beyond logic and reasoning. Squaring Jupiter. Okay? Jupiter can relate to foreigners, it can relate to religion, it can relate to law. Okay? What we see happening in the world is a great confusion as to what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. Okay? And behind all of this, the universe is trying to break up the status quo and to put the responsibility for the future of the planet right on us, to see whether or not we're willing to take that responsibility. If we want that power, the ability that Pluto can give us, that Neptune is offering, and that Uranus causes us to notice, right? We have to be willing to be responsible, to take responsibility for our lives. And many, many, many millions are not willing to do that. This again is why we see the threat of fear and hatred and violence and the encouragement, so to speak, of warlike tendencies such as Pakistan and over in India. All right, so this is how you can get an idea. What is the universe attempting to do to me? Why am I in such pain? Okay? Most astrologers that are therapists and stuff utilize astrology to help them to kind of get an idea of what the person is going through. And then they can adapt their therapy to that. Okay? All right. Uranus conjuncting the Sun. All right? The Sun represents leaders. Okay? People that are in positions of authority. Okay? There is all kinds of unexpected changes going on there day in and day out. You know, what Trump is doing is very much a Uranian type of thing, and it is very strong in his horoscope. Okay, and there's a lot of Neptune in there too. Okay, and there's a lot of Pluto in there. All right, and this is why I've always said that he was a tool of the universe. He would facilitate changes, and it is difficult to determine to what extremes he will go to accomplish that. All right, there's a lot of what I would consider to be misguided fear out there that maybe is too extreme. But considering some of the things that we do know, it's not beyond question that something could happen at such a large scale. A lot of it depends upon what the universe has in store and about how we will respond to these things, or if we'll respond to them at all. That's the main question. Okay. Again, as I've said in many of my videos, politics is not the solution to this. Politics will not solve this problem. Okay? The problem is fear. Fear of ourselves, fear of each other, fear of the future. All right? And all of that is due to a lack of conscious knowledge about the truth. Our personal truth, our global truth, our earthly truth. Okay? And fortunately, as many of you know during these times, this is being revealed gradually, slowly, according to what we can handle, according to what we're willing to embrace. All right? And it's all going on in this chaos. Okay? This fearful, chaotic mess. so to speak. And this is why, again, as I've said so many times before, it is so critically important that you are meditating and you are getting your inner connection. You're getting it done, all right? Because it's the only way that what I'm sharing with you will make any sense whatsoever to you. Okay. That's how you re-own your own empowerment. You re-own the truth for yourself. Has to come through your own inner conscious relationship with yourself. Okay. I think I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to, and it felt so good to be sharing with you from my heart the feelings that I'm getting within inside of myself as I'm talking to you about this. Okay? And as I said, this seems to be the direction that my guidance wants me to go, is to get away from the Trump beating and the negativity type aspect, and to deal with conscious evolution, because we are talking about conscious evolution here, our conscious evolution. Okay? And we need to understand ourselves in a different light, okay, than just worrying about, am I going to be famous? Am I going to be wealthy? Am I going to, make a lot of money here? Am I going to be liked here? All these things which mean absolutely nothing when it comes to being happy. Your happiness is within you, but you have to reconnect with that source of happiness. Okay? All right. Now, this Sunday from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we will be having our next live stream. I don't know what the focus is going to be yet. CJ and I are talking about what we might do, okay? But I can guarantee you that the purpose of the live stream is support, encouragement, and insight into what you're going through. And as I mentioned before in the community section, I encourage you, I implore you, if you're going to be a part of the live stream, okay, don't hold back asking questions, because those questions could be vital to helping somebody else watching that live stream. You could be assisting somebody else and fulfilling a part of your own purpose by sharing, okay, your knowledge, your experiences, all right, things of that nature. Now, one thing that's going to be different starting this Saturday morning, I'm going to be broadcasting on both the YouTube channel, The Astrology of Life, and the channel Wisdom for Those Awakening. So this will be recorded regardless of whether you're watching the Astrology of Life channel or the Wisdom for Those Awakening. I decided to put the two feeds to these two particular channels because they cover pretty much what it is that I am feeling compelled and drawn to want to share with you. So keep that in mind. You can watch that through both channels. And if you're selected notifications on the Wisdom for Those Awakening, you'll be notified that I'm over there as well. Okay, and we do look forward, CJ and I, to having great conversation, great sharing, some laughs from time to time, because you can't avoid it. Stuff happens. And giving you something that when you go away from it, when you're done with the hour, that you feel like that you have gotten something that's nourishing and comforting and that explains for you maybe some of the puzzles that you're trying to figure out in regards to what you're going through. Okay? All right, and let's see here. I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to say. We talked about that. Oh, don't forget, for those of you, CJ and I are both on the platform Substack. We have publications over there. Mine's called Wisdom for Those Who Are Awakening. CJ's is called Whispers of Knowing. Okay, and if you want to join us over there, you will be getting some of the things that our guidance is giving to us. All right, and this might be helpful in helping you through, okay, what you're going through. The seductive ability of our mind, emotions, and imagination is so strong that we don't realize how it pollutes and poisons us. until we experience something that deals with matters of the heart. And with the heart being activated and opened, those energies don't have the power that they once had. And this is what we are hoping to share and to teach. Okay, is that you can overcome fear, hatred, doubt. Okay, but you have to be willing to shift your attention and focus from your mind and your emotions inwardly to your feelings. That is the answer. All right. Okay. From the love of my life, CJ, my spiritual partner, my best friend, my co-host on the weekly live stream, Wisdom for Those Awakening. We look forward to being of service to you, and we hope that we'll see you this Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time uh, on YouTube, on my 2 YouTube channels. Okay? Thank you for watching, and I hope to get this out today.